On July 3rd, 2001, a San Diego jury delivered a verdict that solidified a chilling paradox. They convicted David Medina, a 24-year-old honor student and graduate of the prestigious University of California, San Diego, of 4 counts of first-degree murder. During his month-long trial, prosecutors painted a portrait of a man who lived a profound double life. By day, a promising young professional working for the San Diego Fair Housing Commission. By night, a ruthless gang member known by the cruelly ironic moniker, Happy. This was not a case of a troubled youth falling into a life of crime after abandoning his education, but rather the story of a man who simultaneously inhabited two violently contradictory worlds. He was convicted of a reign of terror that spanned more than 3 years, leaving 4 people dead and 5 others wounded in a series of brutal, gang-related shootings. The story of David Medina is fundamentally a story of San Diego in the 1990s, a city grappling with a surge in violent crime that peaked in the early part of the decade. This era was marked by the proliferation of methamphetamine and a dramatic escalation in gang violence, which saw local street gangs forge deeper, more violent connections with transnational criminal organizations like the Mexican Mafia and the Arellano Felix cartel. The number of homicides in the San Diego region hit a high of 278 in 1991, creating a backdrop of pervasive violence against which Medina's own criminal career would unfold. While the violence he perpetrated was part of this broader, deadly trend, his personal profile made him a chilling anomaly. In one world, David Medina was the embodiment of success. He was a graduate of the University of California, San Diego, a highly respected public university. A Los Angeles Times article published at the time of his conviction even referred to him as a former honor student. This academic achievement alone set him apart from the vast majority of his criminal peers. Following his graduation, he secured a professional position with the San Diego Fair Housing Commission, an organization dedicated to upholding civil rights and ensuring equitable access to housing. This role placed him in a position of public trust and civic responsibility, creating a seemingly impenetrable facade of a law-abiding, socially conscious citizen. Medina's case presents a stark deviation from established criminological patterns. Extensive academic research consistently demonstrates a strong negative correlation between active gang membership and educational attainment. Gang-involved youth are far more likely to experience poor outcomes in school, drop out, face unstable employment, and rely on illegal income in adulthood. Studies that have examined the educational pathways of former gang members reveal that the pursuit of higher education is almost universally part of a transformative process that occurs after an individual has left the gang life behind. Medina's trajectory was profoundly different. Court documents make it clear that he maintained his deep and violent gang associations during and after his time at UCSD. This was not a man who found education as an escape from the streets. He was a man who successfully navigated both worlds simultaneously. This suggests a level of psychological compartmentalization and cognitive dissonance that is both rare and deeply disturbing, challenging the simplistic notion that education serves as a universal antidote to criminality. In his other world, the world hidden from his colleagues and professors, David Medina was Happy, a long-standing and violent member of the South East Lokos street gang. He joined the gang around the age of 15 and remained an active participant throughout his academic and professional careers. He was also affiliated with a party crew known as Lords Entertainment, or simply the Lords, which appeared to function as a social offshoot or allied group that was frequently involved in the violent incidents. A critical detail provided in the court records is that the South East Lokos were a non-territorial street gang. This distinction is crucial to understanding the nature of Medina's violence. While many street gangs are defined by their control over specific neighborhoods or turf, and their violence is often a strategic tool for defending or expanding those boundaries, the conflicts involving Medina and the South East Lokos were of a different character. A review of the 3 major incidents for which he was convicted shows that none were rooted in disputes over a specific geographical area. The Jefferson Street shooting erupted from a spontaneous confrontation over gang signs at a traffic light. The Thalia Street massacre began with an argument over entry to a house party. The Hospitality Point ambush took place at a bonfire gathering on public land. The violence was not strategic or geographical. It was mobile, reactive, and intensely personal, driven by perceived slights, challenges to status, and the volatile dynamics of inter-gang rivalries. This non-territorial nature made the gang's violence dangerously unpredictable, capable of erupting anywhere at any time, with devastating consequences for both rivals and innocent bystanders. Over a period of just over 3 years, David Medina was directly involved in three separate shooting incidents that demonstrated a terrifying escalation in brutality and a growing disregard for human life. From a targeted drive-by against gang rivals to an indiscriminate massacre of innocent partygoers, his actions left a trail of death and devastation across San Diego County. June 21st, 1996, the Jefferson Street drive-by. The first murder occurred on a summer evening in Chula Vista. Three carloads of South East Lokos members had stopped at a traffic light at the intersection of Broadway and K Street. David Medina was at the wheel of the lead vehicle, a green Ford Taurus. At the intersection, they encountered a group of youths, including members of the rival Barrio Chula Vista gang. An exchange of gang signs and shouted slogans quickly escalated the situation. The rival group, which included 16-year-old Hector Martinez, fled on foot. Hector Martinez was not a gang member. Medina gave chase in his car, pursuing the fleeing youths. According to a witness, Medina drove his Taurus parallel to the group, brought the car to a stop, opened the driver's side door, and fired a .380 caliber handgun 5 times into their midst. Hector Martinez was struck in the chest by a single bullet and died from his wound. 3 of his companions, Jose Martinez, Alejandro Gutierrez, and Daniel Russell, were targeted but escaped injury. The crime was a classic, cold-blooded drive-by shooting, and its primary piece of physical evidence was 4 .80 caliber casings left behind on the pavement. At the time, investigators knew Medina had owned a .380 caliber Beretta, but the direct link to the murder weapon would not be forged for years. September 10th, 1999, the Thalia Street Massacre. More than 3 years later, Medina's violence erupted again, this time with a shocking level of indiscriminate fury. The incident began at a house party on Thalia Street in the Nestor area of San Diego. Medina and other members of the Lords arrived, along with members of several affiliated tagging crews. When the taggers were denied entry to the party, an argument broke out. The confrontation escalated rapidly. Gang slogans were yelled, a plastic bottle was thrown, and one of the taggers fired 1 or 2 shots at a truck belonging to one of Medina's associates. This act of perceived disrespect triggered a disproportionately lethal response. While one of the Lords retrieved a handgun, Medina went to the trunk of his car and pulled out a long rifle. At that exact moment, a 3-vehicle caravan of non-gang-related friends was driving down the street, hoping to attend the same party. In the lead vehicle, a red truck, were cousins Manuel Vega and Adam Vasquez. As their caravan approached, they drove directly into a massive crossfire, with shots being fired from both sides of the street. Vega's truck was riddled with 19 bullets. Manuel Vega was killed by a 7.62 caliber bullet, a round commonly used in AK-47 or SKS-style rifles. His cousin, Adam Vasquez, was killed by a .40 caliber bullet. In the car behind them, a white Toyota Camry, Anthony Lamb and Melosi Yuli were injured by shattering glass as 5 gunshots struck their vehicle. Witnesses later testified that they saw Medina with the large rifle and heard him brag about unloading his gun on fools. This incident marked a horrifying evolution in Medina's criminality, from a targeted attack on rivals to a chaotic massacre that claimed the lives of 2 innocent young men. November 5th to 6th, 1999. The Hospitality Point ambush. Less than 2 months after the Thalia Street killings, Medina murdered again. The final incident took place at Hospitality Point, a popular gathering spot on Mission Bay. Members of the South East Lokos and the Lords were having a bonfire when 3 members of the El Cajon Dukes, gang Paul Truong, Peter Truong, and Frank Mariscal, arrived at the location. After a brief interaction in which Mariscal brought some girls from the bonfire back to his car, the situation turned violent. A group of males from the bonfire surrounded the 3 Dukes members and launched a coordinated attack. Frank Mariscal was severely beaten. Peter Truong was first hit with a bottle and then shot in the arm and legs. Paul Truong was shot 3 times and killed, with the fatal shot striking him in the heart. A key witness, Lynette Williamson, provided a chilling account to investigators. She identified Medina as the man she saw standing at her car window with a gun. She watched as he tried to fire, but the gun jammed. He then viciously pistol-whipped a man who was already lying on the ground, shouting, "You're going to die, fool." The crime scene was a chaotic collection of forensic evidence, with police recovering multiple .22 caliber, 9mm, and 45 caliber casings, indicating that at least 3 different firearms were used in the ambush. These 3 events, when viewed chronologically, reveal a clear and disturbing pattern of escalation. The 1996 shooting was a targeted attack on gang rivals using a single handgun. The violence at Thalia Street in 1999 was an indiscriminate massacre involving a high-powered rifle, resulting in the deaths of innocent bystanders. The final murder at Hospitality Point was a close-quarters ambush utilizing multiple firearms simultaneously to overwhelm the victims. This trajectory over a 3-year period suggests Medina's increasing desensitization to violence and a growing reliance on more powerful and varied weaponry to assert his dominance and retaliate against any perceived challenge. The investigation that ultimately untangled David Medina's web of violence was a masterclass in forensic science. With witnesses often intimidated or unreliable, it was the cold, hard evidence of ballistics that provided the irrefutable links between Medina, his arsenal of weapons, and the string of murders he committed. The firearms themselves became the silent narrators of his criminal history. Before detailing the forensic trail, the following table provides a consolidated overview of the crimes for which he was ultimately held responsible. Without the meticulous work of forensic ballistics experts, Medina's crimes might have remained a series of separate, unsolved incidents scattered across years and jurisdictions. The physical evidence provided the objective links that human testimony alone could not. The first crucial connection reached back in time. The .380 caliber Beretta used to murder Hector Martinez in the 1996 drive-by was definitively linked to Medina through a single bullet casing recovered from an entirely separate event in October 1994. At a party 2 years before the murder, Medina had been asked to leave, and after a brief confrontation, he fired a shot into the air outside. Police recovered the casing, and years later, ballistic analysis proved it was fired from the same gun that killed Hector Martinez. This single piece of evidence connected Medina to a murder that was nearly 5 years old. The second link involved the high-powered rifle used in the Thalia Street massacre. The 7.62 caliber weapon that fired the bullet that killed Manuel Vega was ballistically matched to casings from another unsolved shooting in December 1997 on Melrose Street. At that incident, witnesses reported that Medina was present and that a burst of rapid gunfire erupted from his direction immediately after he opened the trunk of his car. This connection established a pattern of behavior and linked him to the specific type of weapon used in the 1999 massacre. Later, a witness testified that Medina admitted to owning an AK-47 and using it at a party to blow people away. The linchpin of the entire case, however, came from a seemingly routine traffic stop. During the stop, officers discovered 2 handguns in the trunk of Medina's car, a Sig Sauer .40 caliber pistol and a 9mm Beretta. This discovery proved to be the key that unlocked his entire secret life of violence. Forensic analysis of the .40 caliber Sig Sauer delivered a stunning breakthrough. It was a ballistic match for shell casings recovered from both the Thalia Street massacre and the Hospitality Point ambush. Even more damning, it was proven to have fired one of the bullets recovered from the body of Thalia Street victim, Adam Vasquez. The 9mm Beretta found alongside it was matched to cartridges and bullet fragments from the Hospitality Point shooting. The guns in his trunk served as an undeniable bridge, connecting 2 separate mass shootings and placing Medina at the center of both. At trial, the prosecution built its case around the powerful narrative of Medina's double life. He was presented to the jury as a remarkable individual, a man who possessed the intelligence to graduate from UCSD while simultaneously harboring the ruthlessness of a seasoned gang killer. The state's case was built on the powerful trifecta of the damning ballistics evidence, testimony from witnesses who heard Medina brag about the shootings, and the chilling eyewitness account from Hospitality Point of him pistol whipping a victim and promising his death. In his closing argument, the prosecutor drove home the characterization of Medina's mindset by paraphrasing rap lyrics, telling the jury that Medina's persona could be summed up as, "I'm Mr. HAPPY, South East Lokos are my gangs. 2 of my favorite things are guns and murder." The jury was convinced. They returned guilty verdicts on all counts, 4 counts of first-degree murder and 5 counts of first-degree attempted murder. They also found true 2 special circumstances that underscored the gravity of his crimes: multiple murders and committing murder during a drive-by shooting. The sentence handed down by the trial court was a complex but deliberate accumulation designed to ensure that David Medina would never again be free. For the 4 murders, he received 4 consecutive terms of life in prison without the possibility of parole. For the 5 attempted murders, he received 5 consecutive terms of life with the possibility of parole. On top of these life sentences, the court added a consecutive determinate term of 156 years for the various firearm and gang enhancements found true by the jury. It was a sentence constructed to be insurmountable, a final legal pronouncement on the devastating consequences of his violent, bifurcated existence. The case of David Happy Medina remains one of the most disturbing and perplexing in the annals of San Diego crime. It forces a confrontation with the uncomfortable reality that academic achievement and intellectual capacity are not barriers to extreme sociopathic violence. Medina was not a man failed by the system. He was a man who succeeded within it, earning a degree from a prestigious university and securing professional employment, all while secretly engaging in a campaign of gang related terror. His story dismantles the comforting belief that education is a simple, linear path away from criminality. For Medina, it was merely a parallel track. His ability to compartmentalize these two lives, the scholar and the shooter, is perhaps the most chilling aspect of his psychology. He moved between the world of fair housing advocacy and the world of drive-by shootings with an apparent ease that defies easy explanation. While educated criminals are not unheard of, Medina's sustained hands-on brutality as a frontline gang shooter places him in a category of his own. He was not a white-collar criminal using his intellect to orchestrate crimes from a distance. He was the man pulling the trigger, again and again. The investigation that brought him to justice stands as a testament to the power of forensic science. In a world where witnesses could be intimidated into silence, the ballistic fingerprints on shell casings and bullets told an undeniable story, connecting disparate crime scenes separated by years and weaving them into a single, coherent narrative of murder. The guns he used became his biographers, their history tracing his path of escalating violence. Today, David Medina is incarcerated within the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation System. His sentence of multiple life without parole terms ensures that he will die in prison. There will be no parole hearings, no possibility of release. This permanent incarceration is the final, inescapable outcome of an irreconcilable life, a life that serves as a permanent and cautionary tale about the darkness that can exist behind even the most promising and accomplished of facades.